To represent time, time also has a very special way of representing it. Okay, so that makes it a special topic to look at, and you are going to be interacting with time in most of what you'll be doing. We had previously mentioned that whether you'll be working with the data, whether you'll be working as a backend web developer, or anywhere you go, you might at some point require to work with date and time. So we are going to see quite a number of things that you need to take note of so that you are comfortable in dealing with date and time. All right. Let me just show you some of the things that you are going to take home after this session. So basically, by the end of this topic, you should be able to work with the date and time module to get the current date and time. So think of it as the date and time. A user registered on your website. All right. So also think of that time when a user filled in a form. So you want to capture that particular time. So you'll be able to get that. All right. Then you're also going to be able to format dates and time using the strftime function. We are going to see how that works. Again, we're also going to be able to perform some arithmetic operations, that is adding and subtracting dates and times. We are going to see that. And also we will be able to convert strings to date objects and vice versa. Okay, so basically at the end of this topic, you should be able to address these 4 key points. Okay, so let's now move on to our VS Code, whereby we are going to be doing a demo of how to work and interact with date and time. Okay, so we have date and time, and this is our 8th topic of our Python for Beginners course. Okay, all right, so the first thing that we are supposed to appreciate about date and time, you should be aware that date and time is a module. Okay, and it's a module that has already been defined. We are not defining anything. It's an inbuilt module. Okay, you need not install the date and time module. As long as you have Python installed on your system, then date and time module should be available for your use. Okay, so even before we start typing in some stuff here, I want to make use of the Python console. So allow me to put it here. All right. Then I want to launch my Python console here. So we have the module named date and time. Okay. And from our previous session, when we are talking about functions and modules, we said for you to be able to make use of a module, you need to import it. Okay, so to import a module, we use the import keyword. Then you mention the name of the module that you want to import. So in this case, we talk of date time. Okay, we import that. Right, so I may want to get the current date and time. All right, so I'll talk of current date. Just this is a variable I'm defining here, so you can't just give it any name. All right, is equals to, so we have the function, or rather we have the module named date and time. All right, then dot. So within the module date and time, we have a function. All right, so we have a function that is supposed to give us the date and time, and now to get the current date and time, we can pass in now. All right, then we cross that, and then we press enter. So if we want to print, we can talk about current date print, and we see that we are on 4th April and it's 8:20, and of course 19 seconds. So in case we run this program again, for instance, let me redo that, then current date, print that. So we see that there is a slight adjustment in terms of the seconds here. All right, so that's how to go about getting the current date and time. But then I hope we remember, like we mentioned that, say, in case you have defined, say, some custom modules. All right. Remember when we defined addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication. Then we said you, in one of the scenarios, you can import the file that contains the modules. Okay. Then every other time you need to make use of, say, addition, and they have been defined in a file named calculator.py. We are going to be talking of, if in case you imported calculator, that means you have imported all the functions within that module. So anytime you want to make use of, say, the addition function, you'll be talking of calculator dot addition, subtraction, or all those operations. All right. So we have seen that time behaves in a similar way. So any other time we want to make use of this module, we will have to be repeating what we have here. Datetime dot datetime. But then it's not so tenable to always do this. So instead of having to call datetime dot datetime anytime we want to make use of that module, then we can simply talk of from datetime we can import datetime. All right. So once we do that, the next time we want to get the current date, we only need to call the function datetime.now. All right. So again, if you look at what we have here and what we have here, this is a bit simpler. All right. So you don't need to type in a lot of stuff to achieve the same thing. So again, I'll just have enter. Then I proceed to print the current date. Okay. So this is still the same thing. From here, this is the same thing as we had here, but then we see this is an improved version whereby you import the exact module, the exact function that you want to make use of from the main or the primary module. All right. So I just wanted to show that quick demo. All right. So now back to our VS Code here. All right, so we would want to basically to do the same thing. So to get the current date and time. All right, so as we mentioned, you need to import the necessary module, which again is date and time. And for now, we would want to import date time from date time. All right, then we have talked about the current date, which again, okay, in here I think I made a typo. From date time import date time. Then to get the current date and time, then we can simply talk of date time dot now. All right, then we can then proceed to print what we have here. Basically the same thing we have done on our Python console. Python 3, then we have hello.py. Okay, we get that. All right, so should you come across what we have here or what we had mentioned, let me just mention the other version of this. So whereby we have import date time, then the current date. Let me talk about current date too, is equals to datetime dot now. Still the same. So should you come across this, the second version, don't start wondering where it comes from. Basically, it's the same thing. All right. So in case you're working on an application that is required to capture the instance when data is being manipulated, you can make use of what we have here. All right. We have been able to achieve the first goal. The next thing that I want us to look at is how to work with a date object. All right. For instance, the date today, we have the year. All right. Then we have the month. All right. And we have the date. Okay. Then if I try to check on the current hour, we have 20:30, 8, or rather 8:30 p.m. So in 24-hour clock system, it should be 20:30. All right. So with these numbers, we should be able to convert these to a datetime object. Okay. As we had already seen how to maybe go about converting one data type to another. So think of it in a similar way. So in here, we have some numbers in here. These are more or less like integers. But then if we look at them closely, we can identify that this is simply some numbers representing today's date and the current time. Okay. So in case maybe you are working with, you want this data to be saved in a database, it would not be tenable to save this data as it is because the system will not recognize this as a datetime object. Okay, so we may want to convert this to a datetime object for the purpose of either manipulating the data or saving this data to some database somewhere. Okay, so to convert whatever we have here, so we can talk about, let me talk about datetime. So basically these are the numbers, this is the data that we want to convert to a datetime object. All right, so we can have datetime is equals to, so we just need to call datetime, okay, then pass in whatever data that we have here. Again, let us see. For now, let me just pass it in as it is. All right, so for now, of course, I need to activate this from datetime, import datetime. Then, so that is the year. We have this as the month and the day. All right, so in here, I need to have a comma. Then this is the hour and this is the minute. All right, then let me try to print date time. Okay, actually I shouldn't create a variable with the same name as we have here, so let me just use that instead, otherwise that might cause some conflict. So let's try to execute this. Okay, so we see that it's currently we have been able to capture that date. So this is a datetime object as it is. All right, so that is simply how to convert such data to a datetime object. So my question is, does the order matter in which we pass in this data? For instance, let me just copy and paste this. I want to comment that out, have that. So how about if I start with the minutes? I start with the minutes, the hour, we have the day, the month, and the year. All right, so let's see how that goes. So again, Python is not able to understand some of these values that have been passed. So we see we have a value error. The month must be in between 1 and 12. All right. So remember, the order should be, we should have the order as year, month, we have day, we have hour, and we have minute. All right. So in that case, Python will consider as whatever we have passed in here as in this order. All right. So that is the default order that we should pass in this data. So to avoid those errors, then we can simply maintain the order. As we have seen in here, we were dealing with some kind of integers. Okay, so these were basically integers. So my question is, maybe you are working with data, you receive some data, you require to do some data cleaning. Okay, and one of the columns has the date in this format. We have a column, and one of the columns we have the registration date, and one of the data we have it represented in this form. Okay, so as part of the data cleaning, or when you want maybe to do some reporting on the data, you might need to convert what we have here to a date and time object. Okay, so we need to at least know how to go about working with this. And as opposed to the previous methods we used to convert between one data to another. For instance, let me just take you back a retro, whereby in case we had x being, let me do this on our Python console here. So initially we had something like x is equals to 10, and we would simply talk of, in case we want to convert that to an integer, we would simply pass it to the function integer, all right, or int. Then that would be converted to an integer instantly. When it comes to the date and time, so in a case that you have the date being represented in this form, so this is how to go about converting it to a date time object. So in here we can talk of uh, let me talk about clean registration date. Let's do some cleaning or convert it to a datetime object. So in here we need to call the datetime, all right, the datetime module. Then in here we can talk about strp time. Okay, then in here there is a function that kind of takes in two parameters. Okay, remember the case about the two parameters. So in here we need to talk about one of the parameters that this function accepts. We have registration date. Then the other parameter is the format in which you want the date to appear. Okay, so in this case we talk of the percentage. Okay, then we mention, all right, we mention the year. Then basically it's kind of replacing what we have here. All right, so we basically have a percentage, capital Y, then a percentage, small m, then we can have that hyphen, then we can have a percentage, small d. Okay, that's for the date. So for time we can have a space, we have percentage h for the hour, we can talk about the full colon, then we have a percentage m. All right, so see the difference. So small m is for month, then the capital M is for the minutes. All right, for the seconds we make use of capital S. So in case you look at what we have closely, for time we have all uppercase. Okay, the hour, the minute, and second. So for the date we have only the year as uppercase, the rest are lowercase. Again, we can proceed and print clean registration date. Okay, so in order to see the difference, let us also print what we have here, that is registration date. So let's see if there is any difference between what we have. All right, so again we have seen it's almost the same thing. Okay, let me print the type. Let me print the type. Let me print type. Do that. Okay, so look, So the first one is a string and the second one is a date time object. Okay, so that is the difference. By just looking at what we have here, they may look the same, but then when we try to check on the time, we see that they are different. Okay, and the importance of converting such data to a datetime object is because you might want to do some arithmetics. Maybe you want to subtract two date objects. So you will not be able to do that using while this data is in this form, all right, or while this data is in the string format. It needs to be converted to a datetime object. All right, so that's how again to go about converting some strings to a datetime object. Let me introduce something else. So let me just talk about um, arithmetic operations on date time. Okay, so for instance, let me get the current date. We talked about datetime.now. Okay, so we want to kind of add 10 days to today's date. So if I just print that for now, let's see if we are able to capture that. Okay, so this is the current date and time. We want to add 7 days to the current date and time. So by just some simple arithmetics, we know that if we add 10 days, then should be 11th. All right, that is 4 days plus 7. That should give us 11th of April. Okay, so how do we do that? Or how do we come up with a program that we are able to add some days, some weeks and all that? Okay, so in here we import another module besides the date and time that we imported here. Okay, let me comment this one out. So besides date and time, we also have something we call time delta. Okay, so basically time delta will help us do some arithmetic operations on date and time. So for instance, we want to add some 7 days to the current date and time. So we can talk about, so we want to add 7 days. All right, add 7 days to current date time. Okay, so let me just go directly to print, and I want us to print the current date. Then we want to add. So in case we try to add 7, we want to add 7 days. So how about if we just do plus 7? Let's see what we get here. All right, so look at what we have: unsupported operand types. All right, so basically for date and time, we are not able to do that. So that is where the module time delta comes into picture. Okay, so for 7 days, we can simply talk about time delta. Okay, then in here, we are not going to just simply pass in days as it is. Like, we can simply pass in 7. We have to mention, like, what are we adding to the current date and time? Is it days? Is it seconds? Is it milliseconds? Is it hours? Is it weeks? Or what exactly are we adding? Okay, so we need to mention, if at all we are talking about days, then we need to mention days. All right, then equals the number of days that you want to add to the current date and time. Okay, so in case we execute our program again for now. All right, so the current date, the first print is for the current date and time. All right, then after 7 days, we see we have gotten 11th. Okay, then again, in case we are talking about 30 days, the same thing applies. It will still add some 30 days to the current date and time, and we see we have moved to the next month. Okay, so in here we have we may want to add years, we may want to add decades and all that. So currently time delta is able to take in, we have days, we can also have weeks. All right, so for instance, we want to add some 2 weeks. Let me pass in weeks 2. Okay, so basically 2 weeks from today, that is 14 days. So 14 days plus 4, so that should be 18th. So let me execute this again. Okay, so we see it will be on 18th. So in here you can pass in days. We have, okay, let me just start with weeks. We can have days. I think we can also have hours, minutes. I think we also have seconds, milliseconds, and all that. Basically, you may also want to add seconds, milliseconds, and all that. So in case you wanted to add, say, 1 year, then you can equally convert it to days or weeks. Okay. Then, for instance, okay, this is now for hours. Okay. In case you just want to add 2 hours, come in here, do that. So if we check closely, the date remains the same. Then for the hours, we just added 2. Same thing, if you want to add the number of seconds, let me add some 20 seconds. If we execute it again, the date remains the same. Then when it comes to time, so the current date is, or rather the current time, we see it's 8:51 and 14 seconds. So adding 20 seconds, we get 34. All right. So any of these options can fit in here. So again, we see how we are able to add how to add days, weeks, seconds, minutes, and all that to a date time object. All right. So it's basically the common arithmetic that we have, but then whatever you want, whatever object that you want to add to the date, it has to be declared in here, whether it's seconds, weeks, hours, and all that, and should be passed in through a time delta function. So let me still go back to this example here. For instance, if you talk of say 20,000 seconds, so I believe this is good enough maybe to make a day, weeks, months, and all that, depending with how many seconds that you mention here. So for instance, if we talk about this is 20,000, let me see. All right, so we see that it's good enough to take us to the next day. All right, because these seconds will be converted to minutes if it's good enough to make hours, if it's good enough to make days, weeks, and all that, and even years. Because for instance, let me talk about days in here. All right, so 20,000 days, those are so many years. Even the program could crash. So again, if we look at the years, we passed in as days, but then these has also been converted to years, maybe months, days, and all that. So we see it will be 28 January 6th. All right, and we see the time remains. So again, how about if maybe you want to pass in days and seconds? Let me see if this can work. So that is days. Then we have hours. Hours, I can pass in like 20 hours. Okay, come back here, execute again. All right, so we see the date, then we also see a change in time as opposed to what we had initially. We had only worked on just the date. Okay, the time remained the same, but for now we see the time has changed and the date has changed again. Also, if you, in case you intend to maybe pass in minutes, all right, you can still do that. Pass in some 40 minutes in here, execute it. Okay, so we see that that has changed. So depending with what you have. You may not always need to convert, say, hours to days or hours to weeks or vice versa. You can pass in the data as it is to the time delta function, and it will proceed to do the necessary arithmetics. So in here we can have the plus or minus. All right. So we can either add or subtract. And of course, logically looking at it, in case we want to add some days from today, we will get a future date. Okay. So in case we are subtracting, we get a past date. So in here, we see we go back to 1970 because we have subtracted. All right. So I think that's enough for working with arithmetics on date and time. So another thing before we complete what we have here. For instance, my birthday. My birthday. Let me define my birthday in here. Maybe my birthday. Let me just talk of birthday. All right. So my birthday happens to be it's 2005. All right. That's for the year. Then for the month, we have January 1st. All right. Maybe I can talk of 00. We can have 000000. So this is basically this is 12 a.m. Okay. So I would want to get how old I am based on the birthday and the current date and time. Okay. So in here we have the current date and time, and in here I have mentioned my birthday, but as you have seen, it's not in a date time object. Okay, so I need to convert this into a date time object first before getting my age. Okay, so I can talk about okay, let me call it that way for now. So my birthday. All right, we said to convert such data to a date time object, we just pass it into a date time function. All right, then we pass in what we have here. All right, and we said the order should be maintained. All right, so let me for now try to print my birthday here. Let me see if we get the favorable. Okay, I need to comment this one out, and I also need to comment that one out so that we can know what is what. All right, so this is my birthday in here, born in 2005, 1st of January. All right, and it was 12 midnight. Okay, so again, I want to get my age. So let me talk about my age is equals to should be current date minus birthday. All right, then I need to print my age. Okay, let me see how good or bad that is. We have 7,398. And of course, we see we have some hours in here. All right, so again, let me see if we are able to get anything out of this. So okay, in here we are able to get days alone. All right, from the days, let's see if we are able to divide by 365 to get the years. All right, so we see I am some 20 years old, and of course with some days. All right, so as we have seen when talking about time delta, we have seen that you are only able to pass in weeks, days, hours, and all that. So similarly in here, you need to convert, say, these to the number of days, to years. The next thing is working with time zone. So we may be aware that when we talk about time zone, the fact that it's, say, let me see the time here. Let me get the current time. All right. So this is the current time here. And we are all in agreement that this time is not the same in all cities in the world. Okay. So in some cities might be behind us or ahead of us in some hours. All right. So let us see if we are able to make use of the time zone to get a similar time if we pass our time zone in here. Okay, all right. So we have a list. We are going to try and make use of what we have here. So currently our time zone, we are in Nairobi, so I believe our time zone should be somewhere here. All right, so we are in Africa, Nairobi, plus 3 hours. Okay, so let me come back here, and we want to make use of the time zone to see how exactly to get the date and time in a particular time zone. Okay, so we have been talking about, let me comment this one out as well, but then still copy it here down here. All right, so okay, so in here I need to do a new importation, and now import something we call pytz. All right, this is not an input module. It must not always be there. So in case it's not there, then you need to import it. All right, or rather you need to install it. Okay, so to declare the time zone, let me talk about time zone tz. Okay, is equals to pytz. Then we have dot time zone. Okay, then in here we can pass in, say, the time zone as it is here. All right, then let's now proceed to talk about okay, Nairobi time. Let's have Nairobi time. So in here we have to talk about date time we want now. And then again we can pass in the time zone in there. All right, let's print Nairobi time. Let's see the kind of stuff that we get. Not so sure if it will be so friendly. All right, so in this case we get that there is no module named pytz, so we need to do pip install pytz. Let's give it time, and again, as you can see, I'm installing it on a virtual environment. So in your case, you may install it in the global Python environment, which again is not so recommended, but then no harm in doing that. The only problem might come in when you want to share this project with somebody and you require to populate a requirements.txt file. Remember, when sharing a project that has dependencies, you only need to have the dependencies for that particular project, not for your global Python environment. All right, so let me execute this again. All right, so in case I get, let me come down here. I get, let me just print directory datetime.now. Okay, so I print the current date time without passing in the time zone. Then I pass in the time zone and try to get that time. All right, so we see that we get the same thing. All right, so of course this number of the difference in milliseconds that you see here is the time may be taken before we get now to print the time in here. All right, but of course we see the time is more or less the same. All right, so in case we want to get the current date time, say in, let me look for Lagos, Nigeria. So this is +1. So that should be kind of 2-hour difference. So in here, let me just pass this time zone, then proceed to execute that. All right, so here in Nairobi, it's 9:08, but in Lagos, Nigeria, it's 7:08. So they are behind us with 2 hours. All right, so we can also randomly select some other city. All right, so let me pass it in here. All right, so if we look at the time, so in Los Angeles, they are saying that the time at the moment is 11:09, and of course 11:09 a.m. Well, we are at 9:09 p.m. So that's how to make use of this PYTZ to get the current time based on the time zone. Remember, in case I execute the datetime.now as we have here, when I'm in Nairobi, Kenya, okay, this is what I get. So in case I send the same program to somebody who is in Los Angeles and they execute the same program, they will not get this time. Even if we are to execute that at the same time, they will get this in their local time. All right. So now that I'm in Nairobi and I want to get the current time in Los Angeles, then I need to make use of the PYTZ module. All right. And I hope we have seen how to go about it. The last thing that I want us to mention is we have been working with date time. But then we might not be so interested in working with the full date time object. We may want to kind of work with time, get the current time, leave around the date, right? So we have the time module that is not necessarily tied to the date and time module. So in here, we can simply talk of import time. Okay, so using time, we are able to get the current time. Okay, so the current time, we can simply talk about time dot local time. Okay, and in case we print this, let me see if we are able to print this. Let me see what we get by printing what you have here. Let's see. All right, so this is the kind of thing that we get. All right, so again, we see it's giving us the year, the month, the day, hour, and all that kind of information. So let us try to get the time from what we have here. Okay, so in here we need to pass it in to something we call strf time. So this is a sub module from time. So previously we had made use of it in date time. So for now, let's talk about time.strf time. So in here, we can talk about, let me see, current time is equals to that, then time.strf time. So in here, we can pass in two parameters. One of them is the format in which we want to represent this data. All right, and the second one is the current date and time. All right, so this object that we have captured here. So in here, let's talk about let's talk about the hour. We can talk about the minute. We can also talk about the second. All right, will this work? Let's see. Okay, let us see if this one works. will it give us a time, or we need to capture everything? All right, so we see we are able to kind of get the current time. Again, in case you also want to get the full date, this module is also able to give us the full date time object. So again, we can pass in the year, then we have the month, then we have the day. And again, if we print that, we are able to get that object. All right, so you may not necessarily need to use this, because whatever we have here is the same as what is being offered by the date time object. All right, but time, there is an aspect of this module called time that is very crucial and unique, right? That we may not get it in date and time. That is called time.sleep. Okay, so when executing a program, for instance, let me comment out what we have here. So for instance, in case we are talking about something like we are talking about, let me print hello here, or let me just show you something here. For I in range 10, I want to print I. Okay, so let me try to execute this program. All right, so in case you see the speed. All right, so how about if I kind of add something here, time.sleep, and I add some 2 seconds. All right, so see, so it will prints the first one, goes to sleep, goes back to the loop for the second loud, then it will print that, goes back in here, prints, sleeps for 2 seconds, and the loop continues until we are out of the loop. So this is basically a line that uh, we are able to give some directive to our program that before you execute the next line, please take a break. So the break is what you define here in terms of the number of seconds. All right. So in here, you can pass in whatever seconds that you want your program to kind of take some sleep. So that is it. That is it for date and time.